Thank you, Sri Hari Ganesh ji. Now I invite Professor Thamban Nair ji of Mathematics Department to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji, with a fruit basket. Thank you, sir. Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji was born in Kerala in the year 1941. He graduated in mechanical engineering from Madras University and went on to do his post-graduation at Princeton University, United States. He was a NASA fellowship holder and worked on combustion instability in liquid rocket propulsion system. Nambi Narayanan ji joined ISRO in the year 1966 and went on to head the cryogenics division at ISRO. His diligent work in the area of liquid propulsion systems finally got success when he and his team came up with the Vikas engine. The development of the Vikas engine was a revolutionary step in space research. He worked with many legends of the arena like Professor Satish Dhawan, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, Dr. Brahma Prakash, Dr. U.R. Rao, and contributed immensely in the growth of ISRO for 35 years of his life. Let me inform you all that we would have a question-answer session after the talk, and we request you not to interrupt the talk in between. And now I invite Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji to deliver the much-anticipated talk titled My Days with Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and Professor Satish Dhawan.
Good evening, everybody. I had been to the IIT Madras very long back. This was, but I had a lot of students from IIT. They were working with me. So I am very happy to be with you just to share some of my memories, particularly with Dr. Sarabhai and Professor Satish Dhawan, Professor U.R. Rao, etc. But before I get into those recollections, I just thought I'll share with you, just as a matter of introduction, that how the whole rocketry came into existence. I think some of you must be certainly knowing that today's present rocket technology was primarily started during the Second World War. We had the so-called V2 rocket, architectured by the great dictator Adolf Hitler. And Von Braun was the person behind the whole show. Actually, there were people like Professor Daddio and then Muller and so on and so forth. From news clippings and books, I had developed a fascination for the so-called liquid propulsion system. Incidentally, V2 is a liquid rocket. So I had kept in my mind that one day I will be visiting those places where this V2 rocket was fabricated, assembled, tested, etc. Suddenly when this was done in the year 1943-44, that time frame, I was a small child, baby. But please remember, but for the wrong guidance system, which didn't work properly, the result of the Second World War would have been different. Because suddenly Hitler would have achieved what he wanted. So later, much later, I visited the Peenamunde, the hill place where this rocket was assembled. Then met not Von Braun, but at least Daddio, who will speak very good English, but many times he will remember only the German language because he doesn't want to answer those questions, so he will go back to the German language. A fantastic engineer. And I happened to see one of the models of the V2 rocket. Not models, actually, it's a working system, recovered and kept in the museums. It's a marvelous engineering feat, I should say, because very difficult to imagine that kind of a perfection even in the 1940s, when the machining itself had its own limitations. For example, some of you, if you know how a liquid rocket works, you have an element called injector, which injects both the fuel and oxidizer into the combustion chamber. Now, the present injector technology, what we have in India, or for that matter in US and Russia, that's a different fixed element. Now, these fellows have made it as a single element, adjustable injectors. Difficult to conceive even. So, my point is that later what happened, after the World War II, the Germans either became prisoners of wars, captured by the Americans, or by the Russians, or by the French. So the question is, whose Germans are the better Germans? Whether the American captured Germans are better, or the French captured Germans are better. So if you really look at the history, almost all the rockets which you are talking about, let it be Atlas, and let it be Proton, let it be any of these rockets, on the base of it, you will find the German knowledge. Now, some of them are settled in the respective countries. So, that is how the rocketry started growing after 1945. Now, there is an equation. The Russians and the Chinese were together with respect to the technology, other aircrafts or ammunitions, arms, or the rockets. America and Japan were together, so they will have the same kind of a technology. And the French was totally different. So essentially there are only 3 people, though there are 5 nations. Now we came very late. Actually we started our research or our work on rocketry in the year 1963, November 21st. Actually the first Nike Apache, an American-made rocket, was flying from a small coastal village called Tumba. When it took off, that was the date, that is 21st of November, 1963. Now, years have passed, but it was Dr. Sarabhai who was responsible for this activity. Actually, he is a genius. Unfortunately, he died prematurely. He had the ability and capacity, I should say, to borrow the Nike Apache from the Americans and the Centaur solid propellant from the French, Minsk computer from the Russians, and technical advice from Japan. You see, the whole thing is that he was able to put the international community together. Very, very innovative person, and a super intelligent, capable leader. So we had, to begin with, we had the solid technology by what is called Centaur rocket. The Centaur rocket was actually fabricated by the French, by an organization called Sud Aviation. Sud means south aviation. And they were doing actually polyvinyl chloride, PVC propellants, they call it. Any solid propellant will have a binder and a base. That is, you will have a polyvinyl chloride, or you will have polysulfide, or polybutadiene, or natural rubber, and so on and so forth. The oxidation and fuel are fixed. They are mixed together and bonded by this binder. This Sendar propellant plant was using PVC base, and their capacity was only 300 millimeter diameter rockets. 300 millimeter means approximately a foot, 12 inches. And there was a rocket by name Sendar in France. Basically, these are metallurgical applications. So they gave us this technology, but later we stretched it into not only to 300 became 560, 560 became 1000, and that is what your so-called SLV3. SLV3 has a diameter of about a meter. Now, Dr. Sarabhai, when he started this with all these international communities together, I am sure that he had a lot of dreams in his mind. According to me, he was heading both the Atomic Energy Commission as well as the ISRO. At that time it is not ISRO, it is called INCASPER, and then part of some small petty organizations called Space Science and Technology Center, and TERLS, Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launching Station, etc. But what was in his mind was to bring India a great power. Unfortunately, he died December 30th, 1971, a premature death at the age of 51, a man who has no known diseases and no declared habits which are considered to be injurious to health. And we were so nice in closing the case by saying that it is a natural death. So we have packed his body back to his hometown, stating the reason for not doing any post-mortem is to listen to the request of Mrs. Sarabhai. And so you understand what the whole thing went through. But here, it is worth recalling the previous chairman of Atomic Energy Commission, Dr. Baba, also died in an air crash. That was during 1966. I really don't know the reason for the crash is known even today or not. But it was a crash, and Baba died. Now, Dr. Sarabhai, though he was starting his ISRO experiments with solids in mind, I happen to be, or it was my luck that I happened to be close to him. In the sense, Dr. Sarabhai was practically experimenting a system in Tumba, which is different from what he was practicing in Bombay as Atomic Energy Commission chairman. In Tumba, he was available to one and all. You can go and talk to him. In fact, there was one professor by name Blamont. He is a French fellow who came here to advise Dr. Sarabhai how to run the organization in some way. So we had a lot of PhDs from Purdue, from various US universities. So this Blamont went through the entire organization for more than 2-3 days and then gave 2 important advices. One advice is that he said that each PhD, put them into a box and make sure that they don't come out of the box. So that was one advice which I think Dr. Sarabhai must have probably thought about it in. But then he also made a statement saying that your structure, your entire organizational structure should be in such a manner so that you are available to all. But probably he said, Dr. Sarabhai, I remember a gathering like this in which Professor Blamont says, you wanted to change from a vertical system to a horizontal system. But what you are doing is neither vertical nor horizontal, but radial. Now, this particular point went into the mind of Sarabhai, very, very much. Then in a casual chat, he was asking me, radial means what? Radial means that anybody can approach me anywhere. Yes, yes, sir, yes, anybody can approach you anywhere. You mean to say it is not good? I don't know. Professor Brahman says you are having a radial system. But primarily, the problem which came up in that review was that there is no visual accepting one. Okay, okay. No, I didn't get it. Okay. So the outcome was very simple, that he wanted to structure the organization in such a manner so that people are given a defined job. And with that definition, things will move in a set goal. Of course, unfortunately, before he started doing that, he died, and then subsequently Professor Satish Dhawan came. Along with him, one great metallurgist, Dr. Brahm Prakash, joined as the director of the renamed Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. And these are the two gentlemen who totally reorganized. I would say the credit for what is today's ISRO goes to these two gentlemen without any doubt, beyond doubt. At least they made sure that you can't do anything and everything as you like. You can do things in a defined manner, in a time-bound manner, within a budget, within a time frame, etc., etc. Now, from 1963 to 1971, it was Sarabhai. 1972 to 1985, it was Professor Dhawan. And from 1985 to 1993, it was Professor U.R. Rao. Now, these are the three great gentlemen, good sons of India. They have shaped the organization to what is today. Now, in the entire process, I would like to recall some of the incidents and the way in which we grew from zero to somebody whom everybody is looking at us today, even in the country as well as from outside the country. When Sarabhai died, we didn't have a rocket which is more than 560 millimeter diameter. 300 and 560 we were on the test bed. And of course Kalam was responsible for a rocket which is called, he named it as D1. So I asked him whether there are A, B, C rockets or etc. But he said, no, D has a meaning. I said, can you please tell me? He said, don't tell anyone. D means dreamer. So he was actually working on a project called Dreamer. Incidentally, the Dreamer was later renamed as Menaka, and then Menaka never flew successfully, and Menava was only a dancer in the air. Okay, that is how it ended up. So we had great difficulty even in developing a 75 millimeter diameter rocket. I happened to work closely on these small rockets. And somehow I found it is very difficult to do a small rocket compared to a big rocket. Because, in fact, it was a usual joke. We go to the test bed with a small rocket, we blast, we come back. The fellows who didn't go there will ask whether it was a head-end failure or a nozzle-end failure. Then you can answer it is head-end or nozzle-end or the shell itself. And we could never get a successful test for a very, very long time. That one got changed by a successful firing of the 300 millimeter rocket, then a 560. That is the time when Kalam proposed a project which is called SLV-3, Satellite Launch Vehicle 3. The 3 has one significance because there was SLV-1 and 2, both were not taken up. So SLV-3, that flew successfully in the year 1979. Again, the whole credit goes to Kalam as well as to Professor Dhawan. So from 0, we moved up to SLV3. So we have something to, though the first SLV3 was a failure, we had something to go ahead with the system. But till then, I was having my fascination for the liquid systems. But nobody believed that a liquid propulsion system can be made, leave alone its usefulness, leave alone its versatility, leave alone its capability, nothing. It's not possible. Simply because you don't have the propellant, you don't have the oxidizer, you don't have the fuel, you don't have the high temperature materials, you have nothing. So you can do nothing with that. But something has to be done. So my only job was to keep on telling wherever the policy making body or the meetings are there, you keep on saying that a liquid must be made, a liquid must be made. So it became a song, and some people used to run away from me when I started going nearer to them saying, yes, we have had enough of your liquid. So then, it became a joke actually. Excepting Professor Sarabhai, when I got admission in the Princeton, I was going in the same aircraft, Annapurna. Sarabhai was also coming in the same aircraft. So he asked me, and then I told him, actually I got admission in the solid propulsion with Professor Summerfield, Martin Summerfield, a name which everybody must be knowing. He is a well-known name for the solid propellant system. But I have no interest in going for the solid propellant. I wanted to go to liquid propulsion. So I said, I am going. He said, you are going to Summerfield. I said, no, sir, I am going to Louis Croco. But your admission is only, no, I will go and manage there. Actually, I didn't know a damn about how to manage, what to manage, where to talk, nothing. I am going there with the hope that I will manage. Anyway, the management part of it, I don't want to elaborate because it will sometimes will be used by some of you in a different way. So let me tell you, I just went there and talked to Professor Summerfield with pleasantries. In fact, there is a criteria called Summerfield effect, a very interesting criteria. So I praised. And then I said that, sir, please help me to get me into. Actually, depending upon the vacancies only, they allot the. Then he said, go and talk to Professor Louis Croco. If he is interested, he will take you. Now, he was a very old person, and I happened to read his one of the so-called stability theorem, Croco's theorem. It is known as Croco's theorem. Even today, it is a very, very valid theorem. And the only thing is, many people use only the result of it, and nobody bothers to understand how the hell it was derived or how the hell it was found out. But I, unfortunately or fortunately, happened to read the whole thing. So I went and told him that, sir, he said, very simple language, he said, my wife is not well, she is bedridden. I can't come to the college, so I can't help you. I said, I'll come to the house. No, but I am, anyway, finally, what he said, he looked at my grades and he looked at my project work, all the things, but very difficult for him to say no. But he said, let us do an experiment. Let us work for about a month. Let us see how it goes. But please understand, you have to come to my house every time whenever you want to go. I won't come to the office, etc. Anyway, to my satisfaction, I was successful in managing my trip to Sarawak, change over to the liquid. Incidentally, in ISRO, we never had a liquid rocket, nothing. But in Princeton, you have everything. So I was asked to work. I was also given a NASA fellowship. I applied for it and I got it. And that particular project was instability of one of the existing engines. The existing engine is the lunar module, which was supposed to lift off from the moon's surface with Neil Armstrong. Now, I was excited because that's a great engine, and it is already flying. But what is there to look at it? Anyway, I started that, and to my shock, I found that the engine is having a very low margin of safety, stability margin. I did not know what to do. Should I to go and tell Professor Croco that this engine which you are successfully flying has less margin of safety or stability? Then I checked and checked. I had one Russian engineer, Shrivansky. He is actually a postdoctoral fellow But he has joined on a postgraduate program here under the Summerfield collaboration. And we became friends. Some of the Russians will become a good friend of you because they think that you are a closest friend to them. And he is the one who helped me in a way, saying that you are right, you go and tell your Professor Kroko that this is having less margin of safety. That is one contribution. Second contribution is he talked about an engine called KVD-1. This KVD-1 engine is a cryogenic engine. As you know that both cryogenic as well as the earth storable, both are liquid only. So he said that we have the highest specific impulse, namely 462 seconds, which in all stretch of imagination, it was not a published work. So I have not read that particular engine. So I asked him, are you joking? He said, yes, it is available. Then why are you not using it? No, we wanted to close it and they have locked up. We didn't want to make it. But I couldn't sleep because the published literature in American side says 440 odd seconds only. This is much more than 20 seconds more than that. Anyway, that I'll come back later. So this particular incident with which I was talking to Sarabhai, he used to visit quite often. Incidentally, Sarabhai is from MIT and he had very good relations with the American. In fact, he has such a powerful relation. Arnold Fredkin, who passed away very recently, he was somebody big in NASA. And Sarabhai used to call him, hey, how are you? In that kind of a relation. So Sarabhai first time coming to know that there are missiles which are employing liquid propulsion systems. He was under the impression that almost all the missiles are using only the solid propulsion systems. Anyway, so that particular story, now why I am saying this is that I told you earlier that Sarabhai wanted you to become a powerful person. So he became really excited and then he said, the first encouragement with a meaningful approach from the powerful person in the organization comes through this knowledge. So I completed my job and then I came back to India. To my unfortunate situation, I came back and within a year, Sarabhai passed away. So the only encouragement which I had to do something on liquid is also gone. And Professor Dhawan came, again, usual story. And Professor Dhawan somehow, he immediately understood the merit of the liquid system. So he said, all right, let us do something. And some of the very big names in ISRO, I don't want to mention the names, none of them were very happy about the development of the liquid systems, barring the second chairman, that is Professor Dhawan. And Professor Dhawan's conviction was so high. Whenever he wants to support me, see, in ISRO, the working situation is that you should have a project, you should have under the project a manpower, then the funding, and then, that kind of a system. I didn't have a project, I didn't have manpower, I didn't have the funding. So how can then even in the chairman's discretionary funds, he will give some exploratory work, 500 crore, 1 crore, something like that. Support was not very much there. With little money, I got fed up. I told him, either you give me a meaningful budget or stop giving me that politicism, I don't need it. But then Professor Dhawan told me one important point, saying that without investing much of money, is there a way to do the liquid system? I said, what do you mean? No, I mean, I'm not in a position to give a lot of money, but I think you should do the liquid systems. You are all laughing. I also couldn't help it. At that time, one person whom you may know is Mr. T.N. Seshan. He was our director of administration. So he was more or less like my guru, whom I liked very much, or probably he also liked me, I don't know for what reason. So I went and told him, this is what Dhawan says. But then he asked, what did he say? I said, how is it possible? No, you should say yes. I said, how are you going to do it? You will find. You don't close the door by saying no. You say yes. Maybe some way will come. Anyway, luckily that same way came because the French wanted a partner to develop their so-called Vikas engine. They had an M40 engine, which, as I told in the beginning, was a derivative of, I'm sorry, some of the names may not strike very, familiarity with you, but you have to put up with me. The smuggled prisoners of war, with their help, German prisoners of war, with their help, they made the so-called Veronique, and then Valois, and then Coralie, and then those kind of engines. They had an engine called M40. The M40 is the grandfather of the Vikas engine. So they said, we want to develop it, we want a joint partner. Anyway, we made an equation. Equation is a very simple equation saying that what is the price of it? X rupees. Okay, this price will not be paid by us as money, but as a kind. What is a kind? We will work for you. We will come and work for you. After all, it is a joint development. So we have to give you manpower, we will come and... At that time, I used your name very liberally, saying that there are a lot of IITians who are better than any of your students here from École Militaire and things like that. So in all senses, I could make use of all the IIT's name, though our strength at that time was 10, after 53 people, only 10 or 12 IITians were there. But we went there. So with no cash transfer basis, the starting point of session on the contract is that this contract is on the principle of no cash transfer. So we went there, we worked there, and we jointly developed it. And of course, I named the engine as, in India, it is known as Vikas. And many people thought that it is meaning development, but it is a tribute of Vikram A. Sarabhai. This is the name I gave it. So today it is known in India as Vikas engine, though it is a joint development of the Viking engine. So it was actually Session's brainchild, if you put it that way. But many people do not know contribution of an IAS officer in the development of ISRO's Vikas engine. I don't think that any one of you know it actually. So this is part of history, so that's why I just thought I'll make it known to you that how people from different walks of life have contributed to this. So during Professor Dhawan's period, we made this Vikas engine. And when we came back to India, the usual talk is that these people have gone there and then roamed around the Lido clubs and crazy halls and stuff like that, and they have no idea about what is Viking or Vikas. So in order to shut their mouth, we made a model using model materials, and we exhibited there. This is what is the so-called Vikas engine. It's only a model. Now let us make the real thing, then only the color will be out. So what I said, I didn't know what to do, because as Dhawan wanted, without money, we made the whole thing. But then we are not able to proceed further. So I added one thing there. My name is Vikas engine. My thrust is 60 ton. My burning duration is 140 seconds, etc., etc. At the end of it, I added saying that I am an orphan. And Professor Dhawan, while passing through the foyer, he just stopped it there and then he asked, "What do you mean by orphan?" I said, "Orphan is orphan." Then he asked, "How much money you want for making a working engine?" I said, "A real working engine would cost you about 1 crore. Okay, you bring the papers. The paper, he gave 1 crore. The problem was the quantity of material you have to order has to have a minimum quantity. For example, if you want to buy O-rings, you can't buy 10 O-rings. But all kinds of things followed, not to be recorded. We smuggled O-rings and seals, and then we brought the help of some people, a passenger who will bring this, bring that. And finally, we made a working Vikas engine. Then, this is a working engine. That's what the Nambi fellow claims. But how do we know it works? Now, we need a test stand to make it work, and we don't have a test stand. and we wanted a stand, it would cost you 100 crores. And there is no specific place, neither place nor stand, nothing. And by the time I was telling to Professor Dhawan, sir, it will work. Then he said, can you prove this? I said, yes. Give me another crore, I will prove it. I said, but people say 100 crores. No. To prove that it will work, I need only 1 crore. He asked, tell me, man, how? I said, I will test it in the same engine, same test bed in France. Will they accept your engine? I said, it is my job, leave it to me. So I went and told my colleagues there, thanks to them, they said, we will inspect all the documents, whether you have done it exactly as per procedure. I said, come along. So they came and then inspected it and all. Finally, they said, okay, we will test it. The 1 crore we paid, 60 lakhs goes for the propellant alone, which will be consumed. So only the 40 lakhs is the real fees we pay. That too goes for 30 lakhs goes for the insurance, because if we blast the test bed, then they have to get their money back. So we tested it. Though the requirement was 140 seconds, I was at the height of vexation. I said, how much maximum you can go the burning duration? They said, the capacity of the tank, you can go up to 180 seconds. I said, go. So we went up to 180 seconds. It was working beautifully. We took the CD of it. Next flight came back to India. And it was my job to call the big stalwarts and then say, there is a movie being screened showing the firing, hot firing of the Vikas engine. You may like to see. But anyway, this is how the so-called Vikas engine got into the PSLV program. And I am trying to illustrate this as brief as possible, but the story is pretty long because it's a period of more than 19 years. So we got into the successful PSLVs, 40 numbers with not even one failure, GSLVs, not failures, Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, all are carried by this Vikas. But please understand, the agony one has gone through that. From outside when you look at it, ISRO, oh great, success. But I don't think that you know what has really meted out by people. So, in fact, in this venture, I have many IITians there, and many of you may like to come to ISRO. But let me tell you that, and it was not to discourage you, I told the entire story. Still, we could succeed in the entire thing, but unfortunately, Sarabhai was not alive, and Professor Dhawan was alive, yes, of course. Then we have, afterwards there was no going back on it. Then to make as a full space power, what you needed was the cryogenic technology. Then my Princetonian colleague came in my mind. So it's a long story. On another occasion, if you care to invite me, I will come and tell you the cryogenic manipulations and management and then delivery of that. But still, I will just briefly say that we signed a contract, and that contract couldn't go through fully. It ended up into a fiasco, what is called the ISRO spy case. But the cryogenic certainly came through, though it was a delayed product. With that, today, what we have, different modules of solid, liquid, and cryogenic. You have as small a rocket of 75 millimeter diameter, 3-inch diameter, to 3 meters diameters. The solid propellant rocket, the booster is 3 meter, 2.9 meter if I am exact. Then you have liquid rockets varying between 600 kg or even 50 kg, 600 kg, then 3 ton, and then 60 ton. Now you have 110 ton. And then you have the cryogenic engine of different capacities. Now, the one message I want to give you is that now you have all the modules which you can think of. Or you can derive some modules if you need in using these things. Now, what we have done so far is we have successfully configured launch vehicles to carry satellites into your desired orbit. It is near Earth orbit, low Earth orbit, medium Earth, and geosynchronous orbit, and whatnot, doing remote sensing. I don't want to go into the entire details, but it is possible to do the MET, telecommunication, television, and then even a watchdog function. So those technologies we have mastered. So we have. Now it is up to us to capitalize it and then get the best out of it commercially. I was having a dream long back saying that we should reach a stage as early as year 2000 wherein we commercially launch these satellites and then gain the money to spend the entire ISRO's operations. And we should pay, we need not draw a single pie from the exchequer. Now that is possible very soon, if not maybe another 3-4 years. Now let us come to the gray area. One of the very gray area is the planning with respect to the outer space, the interplanetary stuff. I don't think that we have applied our mind seriously to it. The mission Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan are only preliminary missions just to feel how it will look like. Primarily the Mangalyaan mission was just to how to reach the orbit of Mars. So you have a lot of hurdles, a lot of pulls and pushes and stuff like that, and to work back from the calculated time from jumping from one orbit into another orbit, that kind of a calculation, we proved that we are successful. Then Chandrayaan, of course, we dropped some small payload into Chandrayan's surface. Now we are talking about Chandrayaan 2, we are talking about a rover and all. But honestly, I don't think that the programs of Chandrayaan 2, Mangalyaan 2 are not defined in that sense. That is, you have an end goal in your mind, so work backwards and then say that this is a stepping stone for that. I think that exercise is not done. I was talking to some of your professors. It could be due to lack of confidence, or it could be due to that it is not going to take place in the near future, next year, year after, or it could be due to the fear that you are spending too much money and whatnot and all. But whatever it is, the fact is that you have not planned your activity in that area. So that is a gray area. Now we have to certainly plan in a deeper sense. I was just talking, maybe some of you might be interested and then spend some of your time in understanding what is the whole universe. How do we reach where and for what? When to go? What is that you need to do that? Quite welcome. This will have a very good, because starting from zero. Please believe me, we have not made any major planning on that. Now the next thing important is that we are talking about the outer space, we are talking about travel. But you must have heard about the so-called SpaceX. I hope some of you must have heard about that. Falcon boosters. Actually, he's making NASA, ESA, everybody as fools. Honestly, he is doing wonders. Low cost. I think he's talking about $195 million for a mission to go and come back. Then if you relax certain conditions like dropping the dead weight into a particular place of the ocean and that stuff, then it will cost you only $100 million. Something like a discounted travel. Incidentally, I recall here about 25 years back, somebody from Germany was planning a similar program, but he couldn't succeed. So he dropped it in the middle. Now I am saying bright engineering, post-graduation, PhD holders or people who are working should certainly spend some time in spending some innovative ideas. Like what we have in ISRO, you know, because we have published it in the all modules. I think you should, the calculations are not going to be very complicated for your first order calculations. So you can just think about it and then come out with something similar to SpaceX or even better than SpaceX. That will be a very good contribution, I'm sure. It will give you immense satisfaction. And sometimes if you think or if you have no confidence in you, call some of us. We will join in your no confidence motion. But still, I think it is worth it. Now, I think I just jolted down some of the points before coming over here. I think I have covered what ISRO's potential growth from zero to today's level, and what are the contributions of Dr. Sarabhai, Dhawan, and Professor Rao, and what is completed successfully and what is yet to be completed. And only thing which I think maybe it will take more time, because there are some good, hilarious, nice moments of Dr. Sarabhai and then Dhawan. How great these people are. I think we will reserve it another occasion in a personal chat. I had the unique opportunity of moving very closely with these people. I have mentioned some of them in my book. A book was released in Malayalam. There are so many people from Kerala. And an English version is getting released by first week of March in another 10-15 days. You may like to go through, so I don't want to have a repetition of what is written. But for the support of these three chairmen, who were the pioneers and the backbone of ISRO's whole program, probably ISRO would not have reached this stage where it is standing today. With this, I would like to conclude, and unless some questions are there.